Hello everybody, welcome to Blank Screen, Getting Started with Digital Illustration, an introduction to Affinity Designer software. So thanks for joining us. This is an ongoing series of, we're getting into some intros and talking about how to get started in projects and how to use the different software and so on. In terms of what we've been doing at the Creator Space is really looking at what kind of software can be used and what is also kind of best practices and finding great solutions that can work in portable like tablets, workstations, and also looking at price points and what's affordable. The great news is the software Affinity Designer that we'll be looking at today is totally available through our digital arts computers. So all the libraries that are in partnership with the Creator Space, they have 27-inch iMac computers, so you can use Affinity Designer right there and access the computers there. So it's really great. At the same time, the software is quite affordable. So if you want to also purchase it for your own home computer system, that's why we're introducing this and recommending it. So it's just like Adobe Illustrator, and it works in the same kind of methods and concepts. The great thing is that it's a one-time purchase and then you just have it. So you don't have to do the monthly subscription. So it's a really great alternative. You can save in the same Illustrator files and all this kind of stuff. You can also open Illustrator files in Designer. So it's quite robust and a great companion or even replacement piece for the Adobe software. So we've researched it. All of our artists have been using it, and we're quite pleased with how it works. We haven't found any major issues with it. So really happy to promote it as a great piece of software that can be used for digital illustration. So let's look at that. So just before I start, I want to thank all our partners in this project. So we have the Canada Council for the Arts. We have all our library partners. So we have the Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, and the Wasaga Beach Public Library. So all three partners, again, have the iMac 27-inch computers. You can book time there. Some are online booking, some you can just go in person and during the library hours. Feel free to go there, use this software, use the computers, and you can do all your digital arts projects there. So today's goal is we really want to look at the what this Affinity Designer software is, go over it a bit and go over the installation and make sure that everyone's comfortable with really using it. So how do you start a project, how do you work with these layers, brush and pencil use, placing photos and graphics, stuff like that, and then also exporting files once you're done. So we kind of want to go through that intro process and make sure that you're comfortable either coming to one of the digital arts computer stations at the library, using it on your own device, or in some other method. So again, you can put it on a desktop, you can put it on a laptop, and there's also iOS, so Apple iPads, you can use it for that as well at this point. I don't think there's anything in terms of like Chromebooks or anything like that currently, but who knows? Things keep changing, so this is what's available for now. So let's get right into this. So what is Affinity Designer? It's a really cool piece of software, like I mentioned. It's like Adobe Illustrator, and what I'm going to do is just look at the just a quick. We have a quick screen here. Let me just pull this up here. Affinity, their website. It's a pretty great little site. So if you go to affinity.serif.com, I think Serif is like the company that under what it is. So, but if you even Google Affinity, so it's Affinity, and if you go to their site, they have a lot of information. But so currently 1.10 is the version. Affinity Designer, it's right here. So Canadian, $75 one-time purchase fee. Sometimes it goes on sale. They have sales as well, so you can check that out. But again, very a great price point for like a one-time fee. It has a 30-day trial as well. So a lot of great features of what you can do. So if we go to find out more, they have a really good. This is the thing too. So we're really trying to get you guys started. Inspiring to get into digital illustration, digital drawing, design, graphic design, any kind of design work. I'm glad that they actually call it designer, because I think the Illustrator name actually kind of is almost limiting in a way. So designer is like, it's design. And what is that? That's anything. So we call it like illustration because we want to kind of corral everyone who's into illustration and be able to understand this. But it's a great software. So here's just some sample Elements. You know, it's won some great awards too. I believe it's a British based company, and they have you know, here's, you know, I like this concept here, as complex as you like. So you know, you can do kind of drawings, and you can create all these kind of nice vector and raster, vector only, and that's really cool. So you know, just that concept, and what's vector, raster, right? So vector is really just a you know, digital representation of your drawing or lines and so on. So it can be in a way infinitely zoomed in or increased in size or decreased in size. Raster is, it's rasterizing it at that particular size and location. So at that point, so think about it like if you painted a line on a wall, if you moved in closer, you might see little smear marks and so on. But if it was a virtual digital line, if you moved in closer, it would not have any of those artifacts because it could just recompute itself for that zoom in. So that's kind of the idea between vector and raster. So here you can use both workspaces in the software too, which is a really great feature that it offers. And then you know, different workflows. And again, you know, it's great. The website's great because there's a lot of videos that you can do as well, and tutorials and things like that. So a lot of that training you can continue on through, we always recommend through these software vendors. They have really, when it comes down to getting the answers, their manuals, their books, their video training is the best resource, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who make and code this software. Whereas, you know, if you go on kind of the wild west of the internet and YouTube, you might find a lot of different videos that are suggesting all these different things. But I would really start with get familiar with these initial concepts and their manual and things like that. We've put the manual is on our website, and also through the Digital Arts Computers, you can get the manual there. So that's kind of a great thing. So in terms of, here's the, you know, the iPad you can use it on. So that you'd have to buy through the App Store. It's $30 Canadian, so which is even a great value. So if you're already drawing on your iPad and you're using like the Adobe products and you just want to get a $30 one-time fee, you can do all your illustrations on Designer for iPad. Tech specs, what, you know, it works on the M1 chip, so I put a note on that, which is really great. But you know, here it basically works with Big Sur, so all the current operating systems, Mac with Apple M1 chip or Intel processor. So that's always good. Sometimes there's a worry. People ask, oh, I got the new Apple M1 chip. Can I still use it? So yeah, you totally can. Our digital arts computers are using the iMacs are still Intel processors, so that's totally great as well. And Windows 10, or you know, you can be using those. Then also for the iPad, you do need to have iOS 12 or above. So they list some of the older models here, but some of them won't be, you can't update to iOS 12. So just something to consider. Make sure you can at least, that's I think really important, that iOS 12 or above note. Make sure you can have iOS 12 on your iPad if it's an older iPad. If you can't, then I wouldn't spend the, you know, the $30 on that, but I then instead put it on a desktop and get you started that way. So anyway, so that's a little bit on the software, and I think it's really nice to always just see what does it look like, how does that work, and that's always nice to see. So here's let me just get back to the screening thing here. So yeah, let's continue on here. So current version 1.10 works on Mac OS, Windows, also available on iPad, works with the M1 chip. We have some great installation videos, so you can go to tbmcs.ca and you know, watch those on how to install it if you want to install it on your own computer. So I really encourage you to check that out. So let's look at just some of the elements to think about. And you know, this is kind of we call it blank screen because sometimes you want to get into digital illustration, and it's like, you know, how do you start? What is a base point? So there's a lot of ways, and one of the things that we encourage is even just if you take a picture, existing picture, or taking a photo, and then trying to draw it or replicate it, paint on it, and work on that. It's a great exercise. All of our artists like to usually open that a workshop up with that kind of a warm up, and there's a good reason behind it because it gets you working and drawing versus maybe thinking of something. It's really hard to just come out with something with your off the top of your head versus having some sort of reference pictures or drawings, unless you might know something really well. Like some people know, I don't know, like a lion really well. They can draw a lion perfectly. Here we got this kind of lion image on the demo here that I showed. So think of what are the elements of digital illustration. So we basically have images. Now that could be actual photos. It could be maybe you're drawing like images. So that kind of word overall images. Lines, brush strokes, right? There could be some fonts, maybe not, right? So your whole illustration could just consist of all of these or one of these. You could just be font based. You could be doing graphic design type illustration with just fonts and painting them and redesigning fonts, creating your own fonts. A lot of exciting things. So I want to broaden kind of our idea of digital illustration, that it's not just necessarily lines and brushes and painting, but it could just be, you could be working with images too, and redefining that. And it's really exciting because I think there's a real line to you blur all these lines now with in the digital world, whereas before, if you're an illustrator, you're using pen and ink, painting, and that. But now in kind of the digital world, you could be mixing different things and taking images, repurposing images, taking fonts, and creating things that are really unique to digital arts and digital illustration. And then through this composition, we can use colors, so different types of colors, shade, what's light and dark, and layers to blend or highlight any or all of these elements. I think that's the beauty of the digital, in the digital arts, digital computer software, is that you can take multiple layers, multiple elements. You can decide what you see, what you don't see, blending them, and how to make that all work. So that's really an exciting process of something that's really unique to digital arts. Okay, so something like this, for example, digital illustration is taking some elements, taking some backgrounds, taking some text, and making some sort of a graphic and so on. So you might say like, oh, this is maybe more of graphic design, but it is an illustration type concept. Something like this, taking different elements, images, repurposing them, painting them, taking illustrations, like boat, that's illustrated, taking fonts, working with fonts and repurposing fonts and that kind of idea. So it's really important to think of it that way, and kind of layering it and figuring out what to come up with. So this could be like an illustration as well. So starting a project. So this is one of the first things. We've been saying this in a lot of the different workshops, but you're always essentially working backwards. So you have to think about, what is the goal? What do you want to do this for? It might just be like, hey, I just want to experiment in the program. So fine. It's a little bit easier to answer that question. But sometimes you have a specific reason for it. So you don't want to start something that's too small, for example, of a canvas. If you need to, if you're going to be printing a billboard with your illustration. So you got to think about what the final size is. If you're going to print the illustration in any kind of format, is it going to be 2 by 3 feet, like a big canvas printing? Then you want to have, work in that kind of a size. If you work in a small size, like 4 by 6 inches, like a postcard, then you want to make it bigger. Again, if it's vector based, great, you can rescale it. But if you're putting anything, rasterizing or doing any kind of rendering as you go, then you could be really limiting that and making it fuzzy. So 4 by 6, if it becomes 10 times the size, it could really show all the some fuzziness and things. So so that's kind of what can happen to that and how that would work. So think about what's it going to be used for. That's like the first question. So it could just be, again, your own experimentation, your own exploration, introductory project, web, print, or video, right? So there's different formats for that. What size will it be? Does it need to be large, like a desktop, social media, web, postcard, like I mentioned? Maybe it's really small in what you want to do. So that's the whole thing. Is it going to live kind of in an online world where it might be small and that's fine? Or is it going to be on like a big screen or a big printed poster size thing? Are you going to print this digital element, this digital illustration? So you got to think about that. What elements do you need? You might need some photos, stock images, reference images. I think that's really important because sometimes, getting onto that idea too, like, maybe you need, if there's, maybe you need, I don't know, there's like a magazine or something, like you need to, you can have some reference images. Okay, I'm gonna, I like this, this image of this lighthouse, and I want to, make something like that. Or, there's something interesting. There's, people. Okay, I want to, have a reference image. I'm going to do kind of an illustration like that. So, and references are great, and that's again going back to if it's specific, like you're drawing a specific animal, people. References are really great for like for that too. If you think about it, if you go back to kind of where does illustration come from, painting and these kinds of ideas, you'd have people models, right, posing, or you do portraits of people, but the people will be sitting there, at least for a bit or a while, just so you can get that the essence of what they look like before maybe you go on and paint after. But you're sketching the people in, you're getting that reference. So it could be real people referencing, it could be real elements referencing. You can put a still life together and do that. So kind of what elements do you need? I think that's a great question. And while, in this kind of this blank screen topic, this kind of series we're doing on how to get started, because the worst thing is you open up the software and what do I do? So it's like, just throw a photo in, paint over it, or put a still life in front of you. It could be, I have some scissors in front of me here and some hard drives. Simple. I put those together, I can start, drawing that. And then immediately my blank screen is gone and I can get started and get going. So that's really, really important, and it's really key to make things work. Okay, so let's look at some demonstration of techniques. So we're going to look at some layers, brush and line strokes, shapes and images, brush and pencil use, placing photos, graphics, a little bit of that, and then exporting file formats. So we're going to talk that through as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to escape out of my main page there. So this is our website, so tbmcs.ca, and I think this is really a great part of the intro too. Is like, so if you go to the website, we have a lot of videos, a lot of these workshops. So here's like the upcoming workshops, but then digital arts computers, so you can book Blue Mountains. There's a link there right now to book through, and then here's our online tutorials and everything. So if you go to our YouTube channel, and and this is kind of the whole thing of the YouTube channel, and there's digital illustration, and we have these quick start guides. So, how to installation, right? So I'm just going to go, to click on this, and I guess there's some ad now. How to install, get started with, we're going to go right to this one.
Hey Collingwood, the real estate.
Okay, so let me, there's these ads that always play.
So it's more important than
There we go. So yeah, I just wanted to skip through that. So I guess there's some ads playing now as we go, all these fun things with YouTube. But anyway, so here's the getting started with Affinity, right? So we have this whole tutorial. I take you through how to install it, buy it, and how to get it going and all that. So definitely check out the website, and then you can watch that video through. It's quite useful. So that will really help guide you through and getting everything started. So definitely check out our website, tbmcs.ca. I had it in there in the slide earlier, and so that's always a great tool to access through. Okay, so let's look at, I'm going to launch this. So there's these little icons down here. I'm just going to see if I can, I can kind of zoom in. So on the Mac, I'm just going to go right down here, Affinity Designer. I'm going to click on that just once. It's going to launch it. It might tell me to do an upgrade. I think I've forgotten to do one of the upgrades on here, but we should be pretty good. So that's just going to launch itself. You can see it's moving, so it's just preparing itself to launch. We're going to launch away, and I'll take you guys through what it's like. So there we go, home screen, and this is great. So there's these workbooks. I think the libraries have been working on getting these, so it's part of the circulation now. That there's the Affinity Designer workbook. It's a great document. So I'm just going to go, hey, let's do a new document. And I'll say, okay, let's go print. And you can see it has like the A sizes, like European sizes and stuff. So, blank slate, what do I want to do? I don't really know. So let's just make an 8.5 by 11, like a piece of paper. Like I'm, going to sketch and work like that. And that's fantastic. So we can start like that. Then in terms of tools, we have all these tools on the side here. This is kind of your main tools over here. And we have things like, brush, um, pen. Uh, so we got the vector brush tool, pencil tool, pen tool, all these different types of tools. We have a place image tool, and we're going to get to that after. So how do we get started? So first of all, we can, kind of choose what color we want. So let's get something kind of fun. I'm feeling kind of like a blue color, lots of rain. I'm feeling kind of blue. Um, and here we go. Right? So then you can see we have that. We got this, right? And you can see what happens here is these are all individual lines. So line 1, line 2, and go from there. And I'm just going to choose my color here. And so width, you can choose if you want it really wide. And there you go. You can start to see that blue line. Right? And then you can click on this selection tool. You can move this around. Right? So imagine again if I'm drawing something. Little funny guy. Just using my mouse. It's not the best way to draw here. I have kind of a little editing mouse. So, but anyway, so let's just say we're drawing something. That's great. That's all. That's really simple. So I'm not an illustrator, but I'm here to get you through thinking of what this would be like. So here the other thing we can do is so I can add a layer, and then what we can do is we can I can draw within the layer. And I like working this way too. So I just wanted to show you the difference. So if you can see if we keep drawing like this, we get all these different lines. But look at what the convenience is of when I added a layer. So I can let this down here. You click, add a layer. And now the cool thing is I can contract that. So I can or expand it, right? And then I can just turn it off, and that whole series of lines are under the same layer. So for me, that's really convenient. I like that. Versus having them all individually. So I just wanted to show how much of a pain that is to do it that way than to work in different layers. So think of the layers again. It's just that kind of image idea that it's like, if it's a piece of paper, think of it as transparent pieces of paper on top of the paper. And this is where the digital realm becomes really interesting, because if you're just on a piece of paper and you had this blue pencil, crayon, let's say, and I'm drawing right on a piece of paper, that it's there, and then I draw something else, it's on top. But now I can actually choose, oh, I don't like what I drew 4 minutes ago. I'm going to just get rid of that part. And that's what you can do with digital illustration, is that you can now work in those layers. So always work in layers and try to think of your elements. Like, okay, I'm going to do this background as one layer. I'm going to do this one person as one layer. And then things get more complicated. So maybe like, an eyeball, the different eyes could be layers because you need to work on them, the really precision type of eyeball you want to make or something, or the facial features. So you can keep adding layers. It doesn't take a big amount of file size at all. That's the beauty of it. So just, keep adding layers and working in that way, because that way, you can, be efficient at the end of the day. Okay, so I'm going to add another layer here. And let's do let's do another color, kind of red. I'm going to do a really big. So you can see, so I can do like, what kind of, that's the brush. I can, change, pressure points. And, that could be what I'm using, like a pencil point, things like that. Let me just see what else. So that's the paint there. This is a pen. A lot of really interesting, tools to play with. Let's pick this one up. This is like a fill tool, so it starts to fill the shapes up like a gradient. So it's really interesting, like what can be done in these. Okay, so let's get another, and again, that can just be turned off. That's all under that same element. So that's great. Okay, so let's go. I'm going to do another layer, and let's do place an image. So I think I have something. Should be something in here. Photos for workshops. Okay, so here's a photo. Great, so again, I was just doodling, so that's one way to, how do you get out of a blank screen? We got the software open, we got the project open, we're going, right? So you choose place the image, find an image, like it has to be a photo, and then what I'll do is you put it in here, you click, it's gonna like open it up, and then once you're done with your scaling, then it's ready to go. So for example, look at this, like, so we can take this, we can do a new layer, and then what I can start doing is take a vector brush tool. Let's kind of do a bit of the waterish thing, and so I have kind of low opacity on this, but you can see I can just start kind of painting over, having fun with what these elements are, and it's I can abstract this a little bit, and then kind of finish my water, and I'm just going to kind of represent what I see here, and this is it's just that simple to just play around with and kind of think about. Then I'm going to kind of make an abstract version of what I'm seeing here. And it's kind of fun, right? So, and all of a sudden you're creating and you're redoing, and it's no longer a blank screen. So it's that simple. Again, I'm not an illustrator, but I'm just here to show how to get the this kind of software going and working on it. So again, we're doing layers, and we're able to then just turn those off. And again, I separated these, which I think is really important. So I can just turn this right off, right? I can put that on, right? And it's all separate layers. So always think about each element and a good time to make that kind of layer break as well. Okay, so now the next thing that's really important is, okay, how do we want to save? So I always go to save as, and then we'll put this somewhere. I have this like media drive, so I'm going to put it on an external hard drive, and so I'll just put it in here, for example, and we'll put designer sample project, hit save. Okay, so how big is that? That's kind of that question. So photos for workshop, that's where we put it. How big is this Illustrator file? So designer sample project, so it's going to be an Affinity document. Okay, and it's 10.7 megs because there's a photo in it, right? So what it's doing is it's taking that photo that was 3 megs plus the drawing and so on. So again, it's not a big file. You can email this to, and that's it. And that's how we can just save the project. So it's right there. So that's saving the project, and that's really key. So we always say for the digital arts computers, if you go to the library, bring your own external hard drive or thumb drive, put it into the USB or USB-C port, and then save onto it, because there's external drives that you'll have access to as well. Never save on the desktop because that gets wiped out basically after each user. So you want to make sure you always put on an external drive. And we highly, highly recommend you can email it to yourself or put it on your own drive as well that you bring, so that you definitely have it with you and then you can keep working on it. So that way, by taking that, I can travel with that. It can be on a thumb drive, external drive. I can come back to the library and work on it more, or I can take it to a home computer, work on it there, and it's a great convenience to be able to have that file access. Okay, so that is that part. So now let's say we're happy with this, and you can export. So this is how we would do it. You can save as, and again, that's the first thing, the whole project. And then what I want to do is if I go export, this is really cool. This gives us all these templates, and this is what I was talking about earlier. So you can save EPS, you can save Targa, PDF, PSD, TIFF, GIF, JPEG, and so on. And so, for example, EPS would be like an Illustrator, just a straight JPEG. And let's say, sure, let's export that. I'm going to say put it right there. And what will that look like? And this is, I think, I just want to make sure that we're clear on this, is that whenever you're exporting the file, that Affinity project, that's only something that you can import or open in the Affinity Designer software. Meanwhile, the JPEG is something that I can actually open. If I click, it's going to open in the preview, or you can put it in Photoshop or put it into Photos. You can email it to someone. So that JPEG exists as a digital arts illustration file, or this designer file is a JPEG, but you can't just send someone the designer file unless you can, but they have to have the software to open it. So this is how you would share things, is to put it as a JPEG. So that's really popular. You can use JPEGs, and you can also export. If we go to the export feature again, PNG. Let me just export that as well, and we'll just see. I would like to just see kind of the file size differences. So the PNG is a little bit bigger, but same idea. I don't really see a big difference in the quality here, but just side by side, JPEG, PNG. That's really a good friend to go to get going with the digital arts with these illustration projects. So that's it. And then once we're done that, I simply, we've saved, we've exported, there's nothing, the save is already done. It's also Command S. And then what I'll do is basically just go quit. Designer will quit, and that's it. I'm done working on the designer project, and I can get going to the next stage. So that's as simple as it is, and that takes you from a blank screen to having Affinity Designer software, going to the library to use it, or maybe you want to evaluate yourself, do a trial or do a purchase, or you want to put it on an iPad. That's great. Why not? Check it out, try it out. So if you have any questions, please email me, tom@tbmcs.ca. Happy to answer them. We can go over things further, technical. I can send you any links to other videos that we have or workshops. Again, check out our website, tons of videos, all on the illustration, different techniques. This is one piece of software. Another one that we're using that's great for illustration is the something called Procreate, and we're going to be having a demo on iPad and Procreate this Saturday. So be sure to check out that session as well, Saturday at 10, about iPad and Procreate and doing the illustration that way. So again, send me an email if you have any questions. Happy to answer them. I want to thank everyone for joining us on this intro session. So again, turn your blank screen into a digital illustration. There's nothing stopping you. Again, I'm not an illustrator. I can get going, get some doodling going, get some images there, paint over them, and all of a sudden you're creating. You got your creative juices flowing. You can get into the next element and whatever, and design, paint, illustrate. And it's digital, so there's no limitation in terms of how many layers or how much how many colors you need. You don't have to go buy different paint. It's all there. So really explore and enjoy the software. I think it's fantastic. It's quite easy to use, and what you see is what you get right on the screen. So there's really no guessing of what's happening. So again, thanks to all our partners for making this project happen. We have the Canada Council for the Arts. We have our library partners where you can check out our digital arts computers, Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, and the Wasaga Beach Public Library. Thanks again for joining us, and I will see you guys soon. Take care.